Over 10 years ago, on October 5, 2012, a barbaric incident happened in Alu, a community in the Obio-Akpor local government area of Rivers State, Nigeria. Four students of the University of Port Harcourt were stripped naked, beaten, and lynched over an alleged robbery incident. It was so horrific that the thought of it still sends chills down the spines of Nigerians today. The four young men, Ugonna Abuser, 18, Lloyd Toku, 19, Chiadika Byringa, 20, and Tekina Elkanah, 20, were close friends. Ugonna, 18, and his friend Lloyd, 19, known as Tipsy and Big L, were budding musicians in Port Harcourt's rap scene. Now, there are lots of different accounts of what led to this unfortunate incident, all being sad. Ugonna is said to be the main character of this story. Known as a budding rapper with a bright future, he was popular on campus. Ugonna was also the glue that held the friendship together. Lloyd was his cousin, Tekina was his best friend from childhood, and Chiadika was his roommate. Ugonna had a debtor, Bright. Bright always gave excuses when asked to pay back the money he owed. It is believed Bright wasn't a student and lived in the heart of the community. Ugonna had found his address and visited him multiple times to request for his money, but it was always one thing or another with him. Sometimes, Bright wouldn't be home, other times, he would hide, and on a few occasions, he would tell his neighbors to cover for him. They would do so by telling Ugonna he wasn't home. Soon, Ugonna got tired of the stories Bright gave and wanted his money. Like earlier stated, there are two versions to the story. One being the one that's generally known and the other is whispered by people who had witnessed the incident firsthand. According to this version, Ugonna had told his friends about being owed and they agreed it was messed up. Ugonna really needed the money at the time, so they decided to accompany him the next time he went for support. They decided they'd go at a time they were sure Bright was gonna be home. On that fateful day, they set out at midnight to go confront Bright. You may wonder why they had to go at that time. They had to make sure Bright would be home. I mean, if you're out of the house all day, you'd definitely be home at midnight to rest. Unknowingly to them, they had just set out on a journey of no return. When they got to Bright's house, an argument ensued as expected. The boys then decided they were going to go with his laptop and phones and would only return it when he pays his debt. Bright wasn't going to have that, so he shouted, claiming he was being robbed. It should be noted that in the months prior, there had been series of armed robbery cases in the area. The community had even formed a vigilante group to prevent more cases from occurring in the community. When Bright shouted, he attracted people to his home. The crowd, already angry about previous robbery cases, didn't give the boys time to explain. They weren't even willing to listen to what they had to say. The other version is a little different. According to the second version, there was a fifth person. Ugonna had told an acquaintance about the situation with his debtor. The said acquaintance was a cultist and was known as One. Ugonna asked him to go with them to instill fear in Bright. He believed if Bright sees this person, he'd get serious about paying his debt. It is said that once they got there and Bright refused, the fifth person brought out a gun. Ugonna and his friends were also surprised about the gun, as that wasn't part of the plan. The boys started shouting and a neighbor, hearing the noise, raised alarm. She had thought Bright was being robbed. Other people hearing her shouts came there and apprehended the 5 boys. In their hands was a laptop and phone belonging to Bright, so the people believed it was a robbery. Bright, seeing this, didn't make any attempt to clear the air. It is said that the fifth boy with the gun shot into the air and managed to escape from the chaos. Members of the community and the vigilante group stripped the four boys naked, beat them up, and paraded them as thieves that had been caught. They were taken to the house of the chief, and it's unclear what the chief told the vigilante group to do, but the beatings continued. The boys were taken from street to street, with a crowd following them. They were paraded as armed robbers who had been caught in the act. The boys were then taken to a borrow pit. This was a site where the community disposed their waste. They were made to sit on the ground, and were still being beaten with sticks and whatever the crowd could find. They were stoned and tortured, enduring an unimaginable level of humiliation. While they were being paraded, someone recognized one of the boys, Tikina. This person called his sister and told her what was happening to her brother. My question is, she obviously knew Tikina, why didn't she try to calm the angry crowd? Eventually, Tikina's sister arrived at the borrow pit. According to her, it was so crowded that she had to push through to make her way to the front. She saw her brother who had been beaten so bad, he was unrecognizable. She shouted and tried to stop them, but they paid her no mind. This is when I think the person who called her should have joined her in doing this. Tikina's sister then left to go call for help. It was apparent that the mob was angry and wouldn't listen to only her. She rushed home to go call family. After she left the scene, things took a turn for the worst. No one knows who first raised the idea, but the mob decided to carry out what is commonly known as necklace lynching. Also referred to as necklacing, it is a method of extrajudicial summary execution and torture carried out by forcing a rubber tire drenched with petrol around a victim's chest and arms, and setting it on fire. In the blink of an eye, rubber tires had been brought and were put around the necks of the four boys. It is said that a policeman was there but couldn't do anything, since he had no weapons to disperse the mob. He rushed to the station to mobilize others to stop the mob, but unfortunately, they were late. The mob consisted of mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, aunts, and uncles of people, and no one made attempts to stop what was happening. Instead, they made videos. In one of the videos that went viral, Lloyd could be seen saying his last prayer. The boys were set ablaze, and their screams continue to haunt all who watched the videos and heard their cries till today. People who watched these unfold from their screens were disturbed at the inhumane treatment the boys endured. The mob watched as they burnt without trying to help them. They screamed and begged until their last breath. The videos made by the bystanders soon went viral, and everyone in Nigeria and abroad saw it. The video prompted a discussion that had been long overdue. Jungle justice and necklace lynching had been popular in Nigeria at the time, and there had always been talks after each incident, but this time, it was different. In the days following, students of the University of Port Harcourt protested the killing of their colleagues. The whole community was in a state of chaos as news crew from all around Nigeria were present there. The public cried out for the arrest of the perpetrators and justice for the boys, and investigations started. The videos that making rounds on social media was used to identify some of the killers, and they were soon arrested. Among the arrested people were Bright, the debtor who was said to have raised the false alarm, the traditional ruler of the community, and a few people whose faces had been captured clearly in the video. In total, 18 people were arrested and charged for the murder of the four boys. They were all arraigned on October 17, 2012, before Chief Magistrate Emma Woke. Since it was a capital offense, the magistrate court lacked jurisdiction on the matter, and so, the case file was transferred to the Director of Public Prosecutions for legal advice. The case was later adjourned to December 20 for the DPP's report. Following the DPP's advice, some suspects were released. Trial commenced on August 1, 2013, but soon faced a setback due to the closure of the judiciary complex for about 2 years. On January 26, 2017, the court freed the traditional ruler and 4 others, because there was no prima facie case of murder proved against them. He fixed judgment for Monday, July 31, 2017, for the remaining 7 accused persons. On Monday, July 31, 2017, the judge sentenced 3 people to death for the murder of the young boys. Although not all perpetrators paid for their crime, justice was served. Ugonna, Tekena, Lloyd and Chiadaka were promising youths of Nigeria. Their lives were taken from them in such a barbaric way, and till this day, their families still mourn the loss of their children. Some people have blamed the boys for embarking on a journey at such time. I don't. They had a valid reason for doing that. I mean, we're humans and we have feelings. If someone owed me money, and always gave excuses or avoided me, I'd also get frustrated. Bright had given Ugonna excuses multiple times and he got frustrated. Other people have blamed his friends for going with him. They ask if none of the 4 boys had thought about the repercussions of ganging up on a person, especially at that time of the night. I'm surprised at this thought. We all have friends, our ride or dies. And it's normal to have your friends back when they've been wronged. Tekena, Chiadaka and Lloyd were being good friends by accompanying their friend to Bright's place. A few people also asked why Tekena's sister left her brother and his friends there. It's important to note she was just one person. According to her, she had spoken up, begging the crowd to stop and listen, but instead, they threatened to beat her up. Some people there even asked if she was their accomplice. Can we take a moment to imagine the trauma she suffered witnessing that? Seeing her brother in such a situation and unable to help. I'm sure she blamed herself for not doing more at that time. But she isn't to blame. For me, everyone who played a part in the death of the 4 boys are to blame, starting with Bright. He made the false alarm. If we're going to believe the second version, that claims Bright didn't call for help, I'll still blame him. Why, you may ask. Bright knew he owed Ugonna. He could have explained and calmed the situation. Instead, he kept quiet and watched them take the boys away. He watched as the boys tried to prove their innocence but did nothing. It would have taken nothing to tell the first responders it was just a misunderstanding. Also, I'm very sure if Bright had defended them, members of the community would have believed him because he was one of their own. It's unfortunate that the boys lost their lives over a trivial issue that could have been settled way before it escalated. I hope they're in a better place now. Thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, like, share and leave your comments down below. And also, turn on the notification bell so you get notified whenever I upload a new video.